everybody, and welcome to Josiah is Right, and welcome to a brand new series where we look at individual comic books in a series. And where did it all begin with comics? Here. It all began here with Fantastic Four #1. But before we begin, a bit of mostly controversy-free backstory. Jack Kirby and Stan Lee both worked at Marvel through the years, with Stan's first credited writing coming in Kirby and Joe Simon's Captain America. It was an all-text piece, of all things to have in a comic book. It was different times, I guess. In the 1950s, Marvel wasn't Marvel yet, and they chased whatever flavor of the month sold funny books. Among them, romance, westerns, and monster books. Remember the monster books. That'll be important later. Maybe not important, but worth remembering. Probably important. The legend goes that the owners of National and Timely, aka DC and Marvel, were on a golf course. The Justice League had recently assembled to battle Starro, basically a giant evil starfish, and it sold pretty darn well. Martin Goodman, head of Not Yet Marvel, instructed Stan Lee to do a superhero book. There's more in between, some moderately controversial, but long story short, Stan came up with the idea for the Fantastic Four. Stan took the idea to the main man at the very soon-to-be Marvel, Jack, I Can't Wait to Be King Kirby. Now, without any more backstory, and hopefully no controversy, let's take a look at what Stan, the King of Hyperbole, called the world's greatest comic magazine! Although, he didn't call it that yet. And by the way, spoilers ahead, but you've had since 1961 to read it. The book opens with a great hook. There's a gigantic creature attacking the city. Reed, although we don't know who he is yet, shoots the Fantastic Four flare into the sky. Because, of course. What better way to assemble your team than a giant four in the sky? The opening is wonderful. With just a bit of mystery, it establishes each character through action as they assemble. With the team now assembled, we don't fight the monster, no. We go back. We learn how they became the Fantastic Four. It's really a proto-Marvel story, in that there's nonsensical science. Science is involved, but it really doesn't matter as it's very much minimized here. You only need to know Reed is driven to go into space. They do so to beat the Russians. The Russians always screwing with politics or comic books, which leads to the tragic aspect. The other side of the Stan Lee formula, nonsense science and tragedy. When they encounter cosmic rays, what are they? If you believe in the world that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created here, it doesn't matter. And I fully believe in that world. From the rays, they get extraordinary powers. Stretchiness, invisibility, fire and flight. However, with great powers comes great ugliness for Ben Grimm. In fact, he's so ugly, they call him the Thing. Ben and Reed are really at each other, both before and after the accident. Sue even gets into it, calling Ben a coward at one point. The team set aside their differences and agree to use their powers to help mankind. That wraps up Act 1 and brings us into Act 2. It's also important to note another novelty, comics with act breaks. And individual stories that fill the entire comic book, and eventually carry over to create an even greater mythology. Comic stories were not generally told this way at the time. With Act 2, we return to the present being 1961. The fashion is a dead giveaway. As is Sue Storm's hairstyle. No character in comics has done a better job of informing you the decade via her hair than Sue Storm. Maybe Mary Jane. In short, they get captured, but they don't know who's behind it all yet. And we finally meet our true villain, the Mole Man. The reveal of the Mole Man is brilliant in that we, as the audience, know, but the Fantastic Four have no clue. It's classic Hitchcockian suspense. Show two people at a table, cut to the bomb under the table. The audience knows it's there. Those two people don't know it's there. Suspense. So who is this Mole Man dude? He's the proto-Marvel bad guy. There's a lot of proto-Marvel in this thing. And of course, there's also the Thing, which is himself very proto-Marvel, I guess. He's a villain, driven to villainy, not out of some innate evil desire, but as a result of people being jerks and rejecting him. He's right, though. People are sometimes, maybe even often, jerks. Even the FF are jerks to each other. It's kind of their thing. Even the Thing is a jerk. It turns out people are particularly jerky when you're an ugly mole man. Mole Man and his monster minions are where the old monster comics of just a few years before meets the new take on the superhero. And that formula would define much of early Marvel. Returning to the story, the Fantastic Four escape. When they leave him, they just reject him again, saying he doesn't belong to this world. They hope he'll find peace with the monsters he used to try to overthrow the surface world and enslave mankind. I'm sure he will. He won't use this time to gather his minions and plot his revenge, not just against the Fantastic Four, but all of humanity. You know, everyone who rejected him repeatedly. No, probably not. I'll see you next issue and for many issues of the Fantastic Four. Probably going to put these out monthly over the next several months, and we'll see how far I get. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. Read some early Marvel. Great stuff. Stan and Jack, the best duo in comics ever. Bye. And welcome to Josiah Is Right. So we're going to continue with our look at Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's epic run on Fantastic Four. So a few years back in 2008, dang, that was 12 years ago, I returned to comic book collecting after about a 10-year break. Dang. 10 more years. At the time, I was locked into the Secret Invasion storyline featuring some massive revelations about some Marvel heroes. Where did that all begin? Here, with some sneaky shapeshifters, known as the Skrulls, in Fantastic Four #2. The opening tease in this issue is Stan Lee at his best. This is why Stan Lee gets more credit, or historically kind of has got or taken more credit than Jack Kirby, because Kirby's a workman, Lee is a showman, and this is Lee the showman at his absolute best. We begin with the obvious bait and switch. The Fantastic Four are committing crimes. Geez, these guys have been around for a month and they've already been corrupted by their powers and turned to evil? Or have they? It's a bit of a cliche in comics and cartoons to have a bad guy dress up as a good guy and sully that good guy's good name. However, looking back, it really wasn't at least as much of a cliche, and to be fair, we don't know who the Fantastic Four are yet. They could easily turn to evil, and leaps of logic aside, it's possible. The Skrulls are revealed and they are freaking gross. Less sort of hunky and powerful as they later appear, more insect or lizard-like. I love the modern look, but when I see them today, I think those dudes look cool. Like the way John Byrne drew them, they looked cool. I don't think that when I see these monsters. Remember, early Marvel was heavily influenced by the previous era of monster comic books in the 1950s. Tales to Astonish and all those books were really just monster books at the time. So how are our heroes taking all this? Well, Thing is mad and Reed blames himself. Pretty much what they'll do for the next 50 years and counting. Is it 60 now? It's not 70, is it? Until Marvel canceled the book due to rights issues. Giant corporate mergers being a few years off in the early 60s. I'm jumping time quite a lot today. My apologies. The army shows up and the team allows themselves to be taken in, proving they're heroes. Only good guys do that. However, they immediately escape to clear their good names. Which begs the question, why even allow them to arrest you in the first place? Either you're just killing time or filling pages. The gang goes after the Skrulls. Johnny actually goes with the Skrulls. Now, I might be a bit slow on the uptake here, but does Johnny know that he's with the Skrulls? Do the Skrulls know he's not one of them? Who's trying to trap who here? Anyway, Johnny does what Johnny does and raises hell. You could say that he has a bit of a fiery personality. You could say that, but you probably shouldn't. It's a lame joke. Raising hell for the Fantastic Four is carried out by Johnny or the Thing, often both. The rest of the team shows up to figure it out. At this point, it's clear. These dudes are shape-shifting aliens. The Fantastic Four pose as the Skrulls and go to the mothership, which was waiting for the advance crew to set things up for their invasion. A secret one? But the weird thing is, the Fantastic Four never change their appearance. They just sort of say, oh, not right now, it's so unsafe down there, we don't even have time to shapeshift back. There's also an awesome meta Strange Tales reference. These are the things that changed comics from a kid's medium to one that transcended age. Now it's mainly for old people, ironically. Returning to our story, Reed tricks the Skrull King and gets an award for it. An award! The Space Skrulls leave, the Fantastic Four return to Earth, and on the way down, radiation, or reverse radiation, changes the Thing back to plain old Ben. He then instantly changes back to the Thing. Poor Ben. The Fantastic Four, along with some local cops, attack the remaining Skrulls. Why they need them is beyond me, but I guess they just want to make them feel needed. There's a great callback to Reed's medal on the last page, and what becomes of the remaining Skrulls. A twist ending, AC Comics, Vault of Horror, Tales from the Crypt, and so on would be proud of. The Skrulls are hypnotized and transformed into cows. That's it for the Fantastic Four #2. A bit of an uneven issue, but certainly a historically significant one. We will be back here next month for Fantastic Four #3. Thanks for watching. Bye!
Here come the Skrulls invading. Do you run and hide in fear?
you? And welcome to Josiah is Right. So today we continue our look at every single issue in Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's groundbreaking, industry-defining run on Fantastic Four. Today specifically we'll be looking at issue number 3, which gives us the greatest ever anything ever in the tagline. At least the proto version of the greatest tagline. The greatest comic magazine in the world. Both exclamation marks, totally necessary. Also, it would later become the much more flowy and therefore more catchy, the world's greatest comic magazine. Regardless of the exact wording, this is where the awesome hyperbole of Stan Lee, language that would define Marvel for decades, began. Before page 1, page -1, often referred to as the cover, we learn of the Fantastic Car and new costumes. This is a big issue. The bad news is, it's all downhill from the promise of the cover. It's certainly the weakest issue thus far. It is number 3 and it ranks 3rd. If I had to rank them, the previous 3 issues that is, I'd probably rate them 2, 1, 3. But I don't have to, so I won't. On actual page 1, we are greeted by our first truly lame Fantastic Four villain in Miracle Man. Which to me is a good guy's name. Just ask Jack Kirby. He'd probably say, yeah, like Scott Free, Mr. Miracle. Stan Lee wishes he came up with that name. From the audience, the Fantastic Four watch Miracle Man, who is sort of a slightly more devilish Doctor Strange. Miracle Man shows up the Thing in a feat of strength. Poor Thing, he's just an angry dude. I know his transformation, it was unfortunate, but he'd just be ticked off regardless. A bit later, there's a marquee for a great-looking monster movie. The Monster from Mars! Oh, the 1950s. Now, I know it was the 1960s, but that title, that movie, it belongs to the 1950s. And it's kind of a callback to 1950s Marvel monster comics, before they were even Marvel. The giant replica monster is brought to magical life. Good thing the premiere is televised and the Fantastic Four are watching. I mean, what else would they be watching? There were like 3 channels back then. As many issues as there were of this comic book at this point. The team gears up, and this is where we get the cool stuff the cover promised us. First, the costumes, actually made by Sue. Very kind of her. However, she also makes a mask for the Thing. Her heart's in the right place, I swear. The Fantastic Car breaks apart, showing for the first time why Reed Richards is awesome with his James Bond-like tech. The team dispatches the monster from Mars by melting it, so the Miracle Man steals an atomic tank. That has to be the deadliest of all tanks, right? Sue does her invisible deal and sneaks on. With Act 4, the team regroups. The Thing is haunted by his transformation, so Johnny and Ben fight for some reason. They do that a lot. Then we get the greatest line I've ever read in a comic. A dog never growls for no reason. True, ask my dog. He wouldn't growl on command, sorry, but trust me, if you tried to hug him, he would definitely growl at you. Sue sends the signal, that flaming 4 from issue 1. These guys need radios or something. Then again, nah, that's way less dramatic. The dysfunctional team comes together because that's what the Fantastic Four does. This is issue 3, and it's already not as good as the first 2 issues. It's like a Superman sequel.
Watch the trees.
Returning to the story, Johnny flashes a flame to blind Miracle Man, and somehow only him. It's cool to see the team using their powers in various and new ways as we get deeper into the comics run. As we learn that Miracle Man isn't performing miracles or magic of any kind. He's hypnotizing people. How he managed to do this on a massive scale is never explained. Reed points out that he's not a real magician, just a hypnotist that is a master of illusion. How does he know this? Well, Reed says a real magician wouldn't steal. Huh? Is that like breaking the magician's code? Moving on. Actually, not quite yet. So is he permanently blind? Because I'm pretty sure he's now permanently blind and that's why he can't hypnotize, so he's no longer a threat. That's kind of unintentionally dark, or maybe it was totally intentional. Anyway, the end of the 3rd ranked out of 3 Fantastic Four issues, Johnny gets angry and takes off. Why is Johnny mad? I am not sure, but I hope he rejoins the team. We'll have to wait until next time to find out. That is issue 3. Thank you for joining me, and I kind of dug at this issue a little bit more than normal, but it's really not that bad. It's just not as good as the previous 2. And the great news is, not that bad, and it becomes great as this series continues. Let's continue to look. I will see you guys next month. Thank you. Bye. Hello, how are you? And welcome to Josiah is Right. So today we're going to continue our look at Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's industry-defining run on Fantastic Four with Fantastic Four number 4. After a dip in quality for issue 3, even though tons of elemental FF elements were introduced, we very much return to form here in issue 4, where the cover is dynamic and boldly and accurately proclaims the world's greatest comic magazine. Stan took credit for actually saying it in his typical style, but he also credited the fans for the sentiment, insisting it came from feedback from the fans. Letters and phone calls in those days. Once we're on the inside of the comic book, note the credit, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, just their names. Classy. The good old days. The first act isn't bad, but it's really here to resolve the "Where's Johnny" plot from the previous issue. I also have to stop and point out the quality of Jack Kirby's work here. Jack Kirby worked fast, faster than just about anyone in the history of the business. However, his quickest panels are better than most as they tell more of a story. The story here is all in character expression. The Thing in the very first panel is full of rage and pain. Even when Stan Lee's dialogue is at its most corny, which is often a good or at least enjoyable thing, the drama remains in the images. Thing says Torch is a brat. He's right. Reed blames Ben. He's right. The previous issue is recapped without a mention of Miracle Man, because he was lame. Is this the first example of a retcon? Like an intentional one? The recap focuses on the cool monster and shows us how Torch saved the day, twice last issue. The gang splits up to find Johnny, leaving the Fantastic Car, which is really more a boat than a car. Invisible, I'm not yet a woman girl has a drink. Why she can't wait to turn invisible first, I'm not sure. Reed kicks a guy off a bike. Generally, we have a few fun character moments. It's nice. Of course, the Thing finds Johnny, punching through a freaking wall. They fight. Why? Beats me, but as one of 4 boys, the youngest of 4 boys, I get it. Families occasionally fight. And while this book was more grown up, it was still made for kids, and we definitely fought a lot more as kids. Ben transforms back and forth. For a moment, he's happy. Sadly, everybody but Ben seems to realize the transformation's temporary. This is one criticism I have of these early books. He really transforms back and forth quite a bit. Here we get more of the beautiful sadness of Kirby's Thing art. Johnny is hiding out at a homeless shelter, reading a Submariner comic book from the 1940s. More meta Marvel. A bearded drifter mumbles about not knowing who he is. Johnny knows and burns his beard off. Once years ago as probably a teenager, maybe in college, I had my eyebrows singed by a fire, and the smell was horrible. So burning off someone's beard is a terrible thing to do to anybody. But it gets worse. And also better. Johnny is now sure who he's found, so he chucks Namor into the ocean to restore his memory. How does Johnny know this will work? Must have been in the comic he was reading. Namor swims to Atlantis. It sits abandoned and devastated, ravaged by time and neglect. He seeks revenge against humanity. That's how you make a villain, by the way. He is full of hate, but actually justified in it. He begins his revenge by awakening a giant sea monster. Another giant monster. The best of 1950s Marvel and the best of 1960s Marvel. And it's still good today in the 2020s. To bring down the undersea Goliath, the Thing straps a bomb to his back and crawls into its mouth. He may be sad, he may be angry, but Ben Grimm is a hero through and through. Inside the monster, Thing fights another monster. It's awesome. This isn't the monster. A simulation. Sue steals Namor's horn. The horn used to awaken the sea creature in the first place. Good news, bad news. Namor digs Sue. He hesitates just long enough for Johnny to create a vortex, separating the horn from the villain. Or hero, depending on your point of view. This is a great ending, and a great setup, and an overall great issue of Fantastic Four. It really sets up Marvel for years and years and years here. So that is it for issue 4. Next up, issue 5 of Fantastic Four as we continue looking at this amazing run. And the great news is, it's really good now, and it gets even better, and better and better and better. Let's see how long we can keep this up, we being me, looking at all these issues. It's really actually quite fun. I have the trades of, the first 60 issues? So we'll look at all those, plus annuals. So 60 plus? see you each month, give or take, for the next one of these. Bye.
Fantastic Four! Fantastic Four!
Hello and welcome to Josiah is Right, and let's just continue with our look at Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's elemental run on Fantastic Four. Let's just jump into issue number 5. As with the last issue, before we're even in the comic, we know we're in for some awesome. The cover reads, "Meet Dr. Doom." On the cover, this Doom fella is dominating the entire team. To begin, Doom is playing with Fantastic Four action figures? Is he in Evil Me? Things continue to be meta at Marvel as Johnny reads a Hulk comic book. Johnny observes that Hulk reminds him of the Thing. Was the Marvel Universe not yet connected? I mean, it was, but it's wonderfully confusing how it kind of is trippy with the meta-ness. Or is this the kind of meta-ness we saw in Logan, where there are comics based on the idea that the X-Men used to be a thing? Torch then burns his own comic. What a shame. It would be worth thousands today. Reed and Sue have to break up the kids fighting. Being the spoil sports / mom and dad of the team that they are. I get it. I'm a dad, but I'm also a sibling, one of 4 boys, so I get the urge to fight one of your brothers. Marvel's first family bickers, and the villain promised on the cover overtakes the skyscraper, literally covering it in a net. Doom speaks. Reed knows this voice from his past. And not shoehorned into the team's origin like in the movies, and I mean all the movies. It's unclear how Doom got ugly, but he went to Tibet to buy a metal mask, I assume? Maybe he was looking for Doctor Strange, but found a good mask salesman? Doom wants Sue, and then immediately captures the rest of the team. Doom has the most wonderfully convoluted goal in mind. He sends the boys back in time, holding Sue hostage as insurance to make sure they successfully bring him, wait for it, Blackbeard's treasure chest. Being that specific will be important later. Doom believes the gems inside the chest will give him the ability to roll the earth. I guess they're Infinity Stones? Geographical issues with time travel aside, mainly, how can you travel through time and location without a vehicle that transports you through time and physical space? This stuff is comic book gold. It's what makes the medium unique and wonderfully absurd all at the same time. Go Stan and Jack. In the past, the guys have a drink and pass out. Drunk or drugged, maybe? Jack shines here with a few panels of the Thing coming to as part 4 begins. It is truly a great page. Perfect Kirby. The best of all time at his best, and he'll get even better on this endlessly epic run. Well, not endless, as personal issues between Stan and Jack eventually got in the way, but it lasted a good long time. Thing recovers and trashes the ship. Because that's what Ben Grimm does, damn it. We basically have the Fantastic Four being the Fantastic Four in pirate times. It feels like it's Stan and Jack just tossing ideas out and having fun with it, while also being just a bit profound. Stay tuned for that. It also feels like Marvel was crossing over with other Disney properties 50-ish years before you think that'd be a thing they could do. Reed knows the treasure must have some great and mysterious power. Otherwise, Doom wouldn't want it, and he certainly wouldn't go through the trouble of this plan. So Reed does a swap, taking the gems and putting chains in the chest instead. When he gives it to Doom, Reed isn't lying because they told Doom they'd bring back the chest. They didn't say what would be in it. Total heel behavior. They're about to head back, but the Thing doesn't want to go. Here he's somebody. Here he is Blackbeard. I cannot express to you how much I love this twist. It's a brilliant example of storytelling. Way to go, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. A hurricane comes at that exact moment. Broken Ben is ever more broken on the beach. This is the best of Jack Kirby in the art and the best of Stan Lee in the writing, combined for a beautiful moment. The result? The ever-angry Thing is too sad and broken to be angry. For a little, at least. The boys return to the present. Well, the past for you and me. The gems belonged to Merlin and had some still unclear magical power. There's a nice callback here as Johnny fears Namor will get the gems, the real ones that is. Thing allows himself to get angry again and smashes Dr. Doom. Doom is always one step ahead, and Thing just actually smashed a robot. Sue short-circuits something and causes an explosion. Reed and Thing use their powers in a cool team-up to bust out. Torch goes atomic, turning water into glass so they can walk safely away. However, Doom is Doom, and he escapes. The team now has 2 legit bad guys, and therefore dedicate themselves to stopping those villains. They are now truly the Fantastic Four, and a truly great comic book run has finally hit its stride. See you next issue with number 6.